and welcome to our webinar. Happy Wednesday, April 2nd. Wow, can't believe it. Here we are, officially, I think, in the spring, right? The spring has sprung. So I have a great guest with me today. You guys may recognize his face, Fred Sed. He has been with us before to talk about buyer consultations. He has a buyer course that he does for Forward. He's kind of famous as an awesome trainer. And I just thought, hey, since this topic about open house is so important right now at this time of year, who better to be my guest today than Fred? Because Fred's team here in Orange County, California, which is one of the most, not the most, but one of the most competitive markets in the nation. And they are out there like an army every single week holding open houses. So I want you to get this straight from the street scoop. So do me a favor, type in your name in the chat box, where you're from. And if you would like to, if there was a question or a burning concern that was on your mind as you registered for this webinar, please feel free to go right ahead and type that in now. And as we go along, type in your questions and thoughts, and I'm going to monitor the chat box for us, Fred, and I'll feed those over to you.
Perfect.
But Fred, let's just start off with maybe what I might almost call a few limiting beliefs, right? And before we do that, though, I should wait. Let me let you introduce yourself. So in case they really like you today and they want to get in touch with you, Fred, so tell them who you are, where you are, and how they can reach you.
Well, Debbie, thank you for your time as always. Well, good morning or good afternoon to everybody watching today. My name is Fred Sed. I've never had the pleasure of either meeting you or coaching you or training you or doing a deal with you potentially. I've been in the business for, 21 years. I just realized that yesterday, April 1st, was my 17-year anniversary for being a full-time agent in Southern California. And long story short, we, started as a solo agent 17 years ago, built a team, and then scaled it and grew it, and then partnered with a guy named Ben Kinney about 5-6 years ago. And we grew our Southern California location to what it is today. And we're roughly in about 5 different offices in Southern California. So we cover San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles County. That's important to the open house conversation today. And we do roughly about 245 transactions for about 165 million last year. And I still sell about 2 to 3 homes per month, which is one of my main focuses.
How many open houses in a typical month will your team hold?
Our standard baseline is 20 per week. So on the low end, depending on holidays, inventory, availability, probably 65. On the high end, probably 85 a month.
Okay. And the reason I think that's relevant is whilst many people here are not on a team or part of a team and they would never hold that many personally, I think it gives us a good sample of experience, right? Because you're in multiple counties, multiple price points, lots of different skill levels for your agents, and lots of different open houses. So it's pretty good overview, right? To draw some conclusions.
Yeah.
So some of the limiting beliefs are everybody that comes in has an agent. Mm-hmm. So thoughts on that?
Well, I've heard it a lot more ever since the rule changes happened last August with buyer representation agreements. And I do believe that's a myth understanding, or it's a limiting belief. Could they be working with an agent? 100%. Now, before the changes happened in August of 2024, my thought process was when I started doing open houses 15 plus years ago, I would always ask the question, are you working with an agent? And 9 times out of 10, they would say yes. And then I'm like, man, I'm getting stumped. Then I heard some coach in the past or a leader say, instead of asking, are you working with an agent, ask them if they are 100% committed to an agent. When you phrase the question in that manner, they immediately come back. If they say yes, they have a buyer rep signed, or they're committed to their family member to use their services. But if they come back after saying, are you 100% committed? And they say, well, what do you mean? Or no, then there's an opening.
Yes. Absolutely.
Then you go for the close, then you go for the opportunity, then you pitch your services.
Are you finding that since the NAR changes that open house traffic has actually improved because people find it an easy way to get into houses without
Yeah.
committing? Are you seeing a difference?
We haven't monitored it, and I haven't seen a drastic difference. I think the same
Okay.
traffic has come through. People are still coming through, whether they're represented or not, and they're still using open houses as a vehicle to either shop for homes, just looking around, or take a serious look if they want to make an offer. I haven't seen a drastic difference.
And I've got some notes here in the chat box we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
One other thought. Are your agents doing open houses during the week as well as on the weekend?
Yeah, our rule of thumb and kind of our standard in our organization to make sure our agents are successful, my partners are successful, is to do at least 2 open houses per week, Monday through Sunday. If they're doing a weekday open house in an ideal world like Monday through Friday, you'd want to do it after probably 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. when people are coming home. So you can get sellers and neighbors as well. And that's where a lot of people are off work that might want to come look at it. If you do like a 10 a.m. to a 12 or a 12 to a 2, it's kind of tough during the week because the vast majority run a 9 to 5. And then weekends, obviously, it's game on, 10 to 2, whatever the number is. But the goal I would have on a weekday open house is at least a 2-hour window.
Okay.
A weekend open house, a minimum of 3.
Okay.
Would be ideal.
And on that thought, when inventory, if you happen to be in a market where inventory is still low and it's hard to find quality open houses to hold, then it just makes sense. Why wouldn't you add some weekdays? So let's say I'm listing it on a Tuesday and I want to hold an open house on a Thursday and then a Saturday and then a Sunday and potentially it's sold, then you may want to have more days and extend your hours, right? Because if you don't have a lot of opportunity, you maximize that opportunity. Now, quick story, Fred, and then I want to go over to the chat box, but there is an agent in Orange County here that I know, and he previously owned a jewelry store. So he was used to people coming in the door, coming to the counter. Open house sort of felt the same, right? It felt sort of normal to him. And what he did, as soon as he got into real estate, he begged and borrowed open houses anywhere and everywhere. Now, I don't know, I'm not saying this would be my normal advice for all of you, but even if he had to drive an hour or two, he drove and held an open house. And he did them, if he could, from 9 to 5 or 6, depending on the time of year.
Smart.
And he said, if the owner's gone, if they're okay with that, I'm thinking this is my mobile office. I'm going to make my calls. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to run my business like I would at my home office or my office. And he said, if I only got one prospect in the early part of the day, but potentially they were a good prospect. So here's the deal, guys. I'm not saying you're all going to do this, but he held 300 open houses in his first year in the business. And he sold 44 houses, right? So not complicated. He just put himself in the path of people.
Yeah.
So Fred, we're going to go into the chat box, but first, can you walk them through? Because you have a very strategic plan for working an open house. You guys don't just show up there and throw up a couple signs at the last minute.
Right.
Walk them through your open house game plan, then we'll go to the chat box.
So, ladies and gentlemen, in an ideal world, let's say you're doing a Saturday and Sunday open house, kind of a typical day and time, right? 12 to 4, 1 to 4, 11 to 2, whatever the number is. You want to have that open house identified by Wednesday of that week. The reason why is because you want to have a couple days to be able to, number one, make sure if it's your listing or somebody else's in your office, whatever it is, that it's inputted in the MLS so it syndicates on the online portals that there's an open house happening. That's number one. A lot of agents forget that and wonder why there's no traffic coming in from the apps. Number two, you want to be able to strategically market the open house on social media. In an ideal world with some posts. The next thing is we like to circle prospect the area. Obviously, do not call anybody in the DNC list whatsoever. Right. Scrub that, whoever you get your data from. But make sure you circle prospect, inviting them to the open house.
Or knock if you don't like to call.
And then fourth,
Yep.
100%. Either day of, knock at least 5 or 10 doors. If you want to get crazy, knock the day before 100 doors, whatever your recipe is for door knocking. But if you could do a combination of those and you have somewhat of momentum going into the open house with minimal effort, I would say, then when you do the open house, have proper amount of signs. It could be 8, 9, 10, 12, 20, depending on the area. And in the open house, you want to have some sort of tool that you capture their information. So old school, you got to have a piece of paper, but then you want to input it in your technology. We use Brivity, obviously, and we have an open house sign-in sheet so that when they're inputted, they're in the CRM system. There's an auto plan created, and I have the information to follow up. So tactically, that's what I want to do. But when they walk into the open house, that's, I think, is our true recipe, is getting them to realize there's an opportunity for us to be able to do business.
So how do we do that? Tell them the magic.
So to me, this is a 5-point system, and it's very, very simple, by the way. Those of you guys that are taking notes, I'd write this down. Number 1, write down Ben Kinney open house script. I call it the Bent script, right?
Okay.
And it's as simple as this. Debbie, imagine you're walking in. Shake my hand.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. I'm Fred. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hey, before you come in real quick, I have a question for you. People come to my open houses for one of 2 reasons. Number 1, they're a homeowner in the area and they're thinking about selling their home. Or number 2, they're a buyer out shopping. Which one are you?
Well, I'm an owner in the area.
You're an owner in the area. Perfect. So I'd stop there. I've identified whether or not she is a buyer or a seller. So number 1, Ben's script. The second thing I do is, hey, Debbie, real quick, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, beautiful home at $699,900. Here's the information. Here's a flyer. I have a huge favor to ask of you, if you don't mind. Before you leave, since you're an owner in the area, can you just stick back for 30 seconds and give me the feedback of the condition and what you think of the price? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Be happy to do that.
Perfect. So stop, write down number 2, huge favor. What I've done is I've asked a favor from somebody that everybody wants to get feedback about what they think about a house, right?
Yes.
But I've got a commitment for her not to run out of the open house when she's done. She's going to wait for me.
Okay. Now,
got her to stay.
For a buyer. So that's brilliant. And by the way, we are recording, so you will get a copy of this tomorrow. Yeah. So if I said, no, I'm shopping in the area, then show what that script would be at that point.
Great. So the huge favor script would be the same thing, whether they're a homeowner or not. Now, So number 1's Ben's script. Number 2, huge favor. Number 3, when they come back and I ask for their feedback and they give it to me, the third thing is ask strategic questions. So this is when it matters whether they're a homeowner or they're a buyer. So if they're a buyer, I'll just go through a basic LP Mama script. Where are they looking? What areas? What price point? Bedroom? The basics. And in that dialogue, I will ask the question if they're 100% committed to an agent and if they've signed a buyer representation agreement. So in those questions, I will ask that so I know who I'm working with. If they're a homeowner in those strategic questions, I'll ask if they're thinking about selling their home, at what price would they consider selling their home? And if they sold their home, where would they go next? Just basic strategic questions to find out what the homeowner is doing. Now, that's the third thing I would do, which is ask strategic questions. The fourth thing I would do, based off what they tell me, I'll create urgency. Right? I love creating urgency. So if it's a buyer saying, I'm not committed, I'm thinking about buying, I'm a first-time buyer, I'd say, you know what? Great news. Inventory is increased in Southern California. Sellers are actually giving buy-down credits, and I can get you a home at a great price at a great rate. Or whatever my pitch is for that specific person, I want to create some sort of urgency so they would want to work with me or at least meet with me after the open house so we can discuss our services. And then the fifth thing that I do is I'll close for the appointment. Either a buyer consultation, a Zoom call. If they're a homeowner, I'll close and say, I'd love to stop by this afternoon after my open house to do a quick 2-minute tour, and I'll get you a free custom home valuation. But those are the 5 things that we do as far as Ben's script, huge favor, ask strategic questions, create urgency, and then close for the appointment. When I do all those...
This is recorded, so they can go back and listen. But tell me LP Mama script.
So LP Mama is, I think, the original script with working with any buyer that comes through online, referral, open house anywhere. And it's an acronym that stands for location, price, motivation, agency,
Okay.
right? Mortgage, which we'll talk about, or cash, and then appointment. LP Mama. So we asked the basic question, location. What location are you looking in? This city, other cities? What price range? 650, 850? Perfect. Are you currently renting or are you currently own? That's motivation, right?
Okay.
Agency. Are you 100% committed to an agent? Have you looked at properties with an agent? Have you signed an agreement with an agent? And then mortgage or cash. Are you planning on getting a mortgage or are you buying cash? And
Okay.
then the last A is you're booking the appointment, which is closing for a buyer consultation.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let's go to the chat box really quick because that was a lot. So Jen says, I haven't done open house in a while. Actions or thoughts you recommend so I can have 50 plus successful open houses. Now, of course, we talked all about that, but what we didn't talk about yet is the follow up. Because here's where I see agents fail. They do the open houses, they put in the work, they take their time to go there on the weekend, and then the follow up after the open house is not appropriate or adequate. So, how do you train your people to follow up?
Well, the first thing we have to understand, and you and I 100% agree on this, is if we believe, whether it's an open house, which we're talking about today, or a lead generated elsewhere, if we actually believe that all we have to do is call the lead once or twice the day after the open house, and we have to have an expectation that they're going to pick up the phone and want to work with us, we're just sorely mistaken. So in that situation, we have to acknowledge that, hey, people are busy. They're getting robocalls, they're getting robo-texts, they're getting a ton of calls. We can't expect that they'll call our missed call back or our voicemail. We have to call on average 5 or 6 up to 12 times within 7 days of generating the lead. So if I generated it on this past Sunday, then for the following 7 days, I better have anywhere from 5 or 6 at minimum, as more as 12 attempts. That could be 5 or 6 or 7 calls, 5 or 6 or 7 texts. But believe it or not, we have to be on the proactive, aggressive side in lead follow-up, especially with open house leads. Otherwise, there's a high likelihood that we're not going to get them back on the phone. We're not going to be able to convert them, and we'll never have an opportunity to meet with them.
Yeah, it's interesting. An MIT study said 50% of leads are never followed up on. The 50% that are, that's usually 1 or 2 attempts. And the magic happens between 6 to 12 attempts in a short period of time, which fits right into this. And Fred, sometimes people will say, well, I don't want to be that aggressive. I'm not comfortable. Then you won't convert at a high level. That's just it, bottom line, right? And that's why Zig Ziglar, great sales trainer, passed away years ago, had a saying, timid salespeople have skinny kids. Now, one other thought would be, or skinny checkbooks if you don't have, but one other thought would be for all of you, my mindset at open house, and I held thousands of open houses in my career, and I won't say I loved them. I loved them because I made a lot of money from them. I didn't always love being there on the weekend, right? But they were just too good to not do. And so my mindset was, I want to get as many names and numbers as I can, yes. But also, I want to hunt in this open house today 2 fabulous people that are willing to set an appointment with me before they leave the open house. So yes, I'm going for contacts and nurturers and potential leads, but I also wanted to hold myself accountable, not to be too passive, to be there looking for that opportunity. And Fred, often, I always previewed and prepared for the open house. So often it would be showing one of those people a house right after open house, or going to their house in the neighborhood and letting them take me through. And that's why I just, told my husband, don't expect me home till 8:00 on Sunday night, because I'll probably have an appointment after open house, right? So any thoughts you would add?
Exactly. Yeah. So what I would say in that situation is You have to have the mindset like we talked about today regarding how to do the open house, what questions to ask, and the thought process on following up. But what you just said is exactly correct. Like we have to be in a mindset where we're investing time away from our families, typically, to do these open houses, right? And
Right.
for us, we have to expect some sort of return on investment. And you can't just expect to do one open house and say, okay, I'm going to sell 3 houses from it and I'm
Right.
good. There has to be a consistency of this being a major lead pillar inside of your business. And when done properly and consistently over time, you'll get the return that you're looking for.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So one of the questions is, how do you make your open house stand out versus the comparables, meaning the comparable homes
Mm-hmm.
when a prospect walks in? So this gives me two thoughts. And then I want to hear your feedback on this. Of course,
Yep.
number one, if it is your listing, you're going to do your best to prepare that house, have it in good shape, turn on the lights, have cookies if you want to, whatever you do to make that special, and any information that they would need. But also, I think of it this way too. The open house, sure, it's wonderful if that house sells, but instead of being house centric, house focused, I really need to be prospect focused. Like I need to realize that the odds of someone walking in and buying that house are not super great, but if they do, I'll know it. But my purpose to be there is, sure, that'd be awesome. But more importantly, how do I stand out? And how I stand out is by being a market expert. They know it, they can spot it. I can talk intelligently about the market, the property. And also, what is my hook? Someone asked about elevator speech.
Yeah.
And mine, Fred, always was that I'm a very proactive agent. I only work with just a few incredible clients at a time. And I leave no stone unturned to find the perfect home for them, which includes knocking on doors, sending letters, making calls, tracking down expired listings for sale by owners,
Yeah.
even going into my extensive database and finding people who have matching homes that might be willing to sell off market. And of course, we search in the multiple listing system. So most agents, they'll plug you in an MLS search, they'll let you sit there. I go out and hunt. And now if you happen to have a team, which Fred you do, you can also say, and our team is out there in the community in a very big way, and we're
Right.
sharing that information for off-market opportunity because they love that, right? They want stuff that no one else has access to.
I look at open houses as the following, right? It's like anything else in lead generation and sales. There's percentages of conversions. We all know online leads have probably the least amount of conversion as far as
Right.
percentage. Referrals, past client referrals or repeat have the highest. Open houses is somewhere in between. As long as we've done them, what I've realized is because it's a belly to belly conversation, it's about a 10% conversion ratio. What I mean by that is for every 10 leads that I generate that are not committed to anybody, that I obtain all their accurate contact information and proper follow-up, within 90 days, I'll close on a deal on one of them. So if every month I can generate 10 quality leads from open houses, then after 90 days of consistent follow-up, then I'll have a pipeline that then generates a closing a month off open houses. It's not difficult to do. That's when we do open houses. Our average agents do between 7 and 9 open houses per month. And in that analogy, our goal is, hey, just generate one quality lead that is not committed to anybody, that either might want to sell their home in the future or buy something in the future, and put them in the system and follow up. So in doing open houses, generating, you want 15, 20 people to sign up, that's one thing. But did you generate a quality conversation at that open house so they remember you and then want to pick up your phone calls and then obviously meet with you and build that relationship?
Now, and if you have a CRM, like you said, you use
Mm-hmm.
Brivity,
Yep.
Which, by the way, is fabulous. It's Brivity.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, there's a lot of auto campaigns. So let's say, Fred, they are a neighbor, they have no intention of selling. I think that you still bring them back with their permission and put them into your I call it information loop, right? So sure, you're not going to be calling them on Monday and chasing them down, but they could get bulletins, updates, market reports, listing alerts, just automated, so you stay top of mind forever, right?
Right. 100%. So I think somebody asked, what system do we use? Our CRM Brivity has an open house app that we use, and we have that ready to go either on an iPad or a laptop, or we still have agents that will still write their information and then they'll self-input it in there, because our technology allows us to be able to, when they sign in or we have them sign in or we sign in for them, it'll create a profile in the CRM. Number two, it'll create what's called a listing alert automatically, where we'll get property sent to them daily with the criteria of the open house. And then number three, there's an auto plan that activates immediately that starts texting them and emailing them right away when it comes to the CRM and whatever they're looking for. So it's very hands-on, and it's also very automated too, which is nice for us.
And here's the thought, whether they're filling it out electronically or writing it by hand, if they're doing that when they first come in and they don't know you and they don't like you yet, there is a chance they're going to give you a phony number, right?
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be, as you're getting to know them and you're building rapport and you're hitting it off just fine, that you might say, in case you typed it in too fast and it's off a number, or hey, in case I can't read your handwriting, can I just get your number again, just to make sure I have it properly? Because they might be like so sad they like you, but they don't want to say, hey, by the way, I lied, I wrote a phony number. So it might be good just to double check. Vanessa, what are the chances of getting decent traffic if you hold open house during the week? It's always going to likely be less, and it depends. So, for example, if you're in Hawaii and you hold open house during the week in the morning from 8 a.m. to 10 when people go to the beach, or you hold it again from 3 to 5 when they leave the beach, it's incredible. That's awesome. I've had people do 60 million in volume a year doing that, right?
That's incredible.
But if you're local, you want to really think about, if your open house is backing to a freeway and facing a prison, people aren't going to come in, okay? Because now people might buy that house, but it's not attractive as a first choice. If it's a little messy, ugly on the inside, I don't care. But if there's a huge deterrent on the exterior, you're not going to get the traffic. If it's not near a good traffic pattern, whether it's weekday or weekend, you're not going to get the traffic. Condos and townhomes with gated that are really difficult to get in, you're not going to get the traffic.
Right.
So we've all done crappy open houses to please the seller or because we were desperate, but you want to be careful and try to put yourself in a situation where you will win.
Right. I agree. And the one thing I want people to understand is, I think you mentioned it earlier with that agent that that did open houses from 9 to 5, 300 open houses in a year. You turn your open house into a mobile office. So if you're doing a weekday for 3 hours and one person comes in, and that's a 5-minute conversation, where you have 2 hours and 55 minutes where you can call past clients and you can call Sphere, and you could do lead generation or follow-up while you're in the open house. So you're not just sitting there on social media the entire time. But as long as you do them consistently and you have them time blocked and you're turning them into a mobile office, you just need that one homeowner to come by on a weekday at 4:30 in the afternoon and say, you know what, I'm thinking about selling my home, or I would love a home valuation. And you just added a solid, non-committed seller to another agent in your database.
And I was at an event in Boise, Idaho, a week or so ago. Fabulous agent, first year in the business, 36 transactions, a lot of them from open house. But you know what? Couple extra things. She is part of Place World, so she did everything we've talked about so far. But what she also did is, she said when her open house was slow, she would just go where she could see the door, knock 5 doors on each side, 5 across the street. Hey, I'm still here. Do you want to come in? Bring a friend. She also did a lot of posting on social media. She said she'd be at the open house and go, hey, I'm at this open house now. Hey, it has carpet in the bathroom. What do you guys think about that? Give me your feedback. Give me your comments. Hey, here's the address. Come over and see me. So you do everything you can to maximize the value, even if that's, hey, I've got this incredibly important book I need to read to help grow my business, and I'm going to read it while I'm at open house, right? I always took my big tote bag, Fred, of work and books and paperwork and projects. And that way, if there was a gap, it was okay. I was still being productive. Let's see. I'm just looking to make sure I've got, there was one I saw. Suggestions, we talked about that. I have a question. When you get a seller to agree to a 2-minute home evaluation, are there any tips on what that looks like?
That's a great comment. So when I'm pitching them at the open house, I would say, okay, Debbie, let's role play. You're right there. So Debbie, hey, I appreciate you're down the street. Thank you for the feedback. It sounds like you're not wanting to sell anytime soon, but you would love a home valuation. Hey, I'm going to be done here at 4 o'clock. I'm going to wrap it up. Can I stop by about 4:15 or 4:20 just to do a 2-minute walkthrough to get an idea of the condition of your home? It's okay if it's a mess. I won't judge. It'll give me a better idea to get you an accurate home value. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. Do you find that a lot of people like to show you their home?
No.
They don't want to let you in?
Well, if it's that sudden, like in an hour, like, oh, my house is a mess. If the husband comes in, oh my gosh, my wife's going to kill me. There's no way, right? So that's fine. And in lieu of that, if they don't give me the tour, here's what I ask. I'll say, great, no worries. How about I ask you a question so I can get a better idea? On a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being your home is completely original, 2 being you've done some upgrades, 3 being it's highly upgraded, what would you rate your home? It's a 3. I put all this, so they'll tell me what it is. I'll say, great, well, I appreciate that. So here's what I'll do. I'll get you an updated home value and a CMA in the next 24 hours. Understand that that's without me looking at it. And let's carry on the conversation. So why don't we set up a Zoom call for tomorrow afternoon where I can share with you my screen and walk you through the CMA for 5 minutes, and then we can go from there. Because I want to get something face-to-face with them.
Right.
And a Zoom call allows me to have a 3 to 20-minute conversation talking about the value, and then I can ask more strategic questions. Well, if I got you 1.1 million, where would you go? Well, I would get this larger home at 1.6. Well, I can get you 1.1 now. You're kidding me. And that takes the conversation to a more committed dialogue. And then I book the walkthrough in a couple days.
So that brings up a good point. The fact that they tell you they're not moving, but they want an evaluation, and they're maybe willing to let you see their home or to get on a Zoom with you.
Right.
Now, maybe they're just a nosy neighbor, but you kind of have to wonder, what's going on here? Because, guys, we got to be clear that they don't tell you everything in the first couple of minutes that they meet you. Just like when you walk into a department store and they say, can I help you? What do you all say? Just looking.
Just looking.
But you're probably there to buy something, and it'd be so much more efficient if you got help. So that's why it's the probing, the questions, the next step. Now, ultimately, I might determine they're not selling, and I'm just going to put them in that CRM, and I'm going to nurture them. Fred, I did see a question. I was trying to find it, and I just remembered what it was. If you have multiple people in the open house, how do you handle that? And I have
That's a good one. Go for it.
I always made sure to try to ask those questions up front quickly of each person that I could. And then I sort of had to just assess who's the nosy neighbor and who's the more qualified prospect, even to the point of who's more receptive to me. Like if I got 3 and I got to choose one to focus on, I want to choose wisely. Right. And of course, hopefully capturing the others on your sign-in sheet. And then that way you can circle back to them later.
So my answer is literally exactly that. I will find out quickly who I have the highest likelihood of building a relationship with, who's not committed, who's ready to rock and roll. And then I'll literally invest 5 or 8 minutes in that person. And I'll let 2 or 3 people go beyond me so I can get that one quality lead in that dynamic.
Yep.
So you and I are doing an event coming up in May in Southern California called Billion Dollar Masterminds, and the theme of that day is going to be dominate. And I think one of the things that you do really well, Debbie, and you just literally showed it, is that you're dominant in negotiations, and you're dominant in asking questions, and you're dominant in how you prep the individuals. So at an open house, it's the same thing when it comes to a consumer walking in. You just got to be skilled and you got to be talented enough where at least you're there to ask the questions. Now, the mindset that I would give around this conversation is one thing. And I learned this a long time ago when I was failing at open houses as a young solo agent. I'm like, hold on a second. I'm spending 3 hours doing the open house, an hour to get ready at home, 90 minutes to put signs up and drive there. I'm 5 or 6 hours away from my young kids and my wife. And anybody who walks in 5 or 10 or 15 people, there's a 99.9% chance I'm literally never going to see these human beings again in my life.
Right.
So why don't I go for the moons and stars? Why don't I ask that additional question? Why don't I get out of my comfort zone and ask if they're committed to an agent? Why don't I ask for the opportunity to at least spend some time to see if I'm the right agent to be able to help them with their purchase or their sale? I have nothing to lose. So when I had that mentality, then we just took it a step further and a step further, all ethical, obviously, but just out of our comfort zone. And then we just got better and better. So that means we can get skilled faster. But if you took that mentality that you'll never see them again in your life, unless you're a next door neighbor or something, then you will go all out with these individuals.
And I think a way to be, I guess I'll use the word aggressive, although it's kind of a negative word, but I think the way to be gently aggressive is to be excited, to be enthusiastic. Yeah, I love this neighborhood. Well, sure, I get it. This house is more than you're interested in. But you know what? I've been talking to all the neighbors. We've got a couple in our pipeline. Let's do this. Let's sit down and really figure out what you're looking for. You guys are nice. I like you. Let's talk some more. So you can really come from that spirit of just, I like you, and enthusiasm, and I'd love to help you, and I love this area. And that can carry you a little bit further if you're uncomfortable, right? If you're uncomfortable. Now, Kathy said, do we recommend having an additional person there? And also from a standpoint of security, guys, you certainly can. And a thought might be, maybe your lender would be willing. It's going to be a red hot open house and they can meet people and prospects, and you guys can funnel them back and forth after the open house. And it could even be an unlicensed person. You have a teenager that's willing to go and be the host at the door, getting the people to sign in. Just remember, unlicensed people, they cannot pose as an agent. They can't talk price, terms, or negotiate. But they could say, I am not the real estate agent. They will be with you in a moment. Welcome to the open house. Here's a flyer. Would you please sign in? I mean, they could do basics, right? Like that. Some of you have a spouse that might go and sit there with them. I think we answered Monica's question about lead conversion. Land voice. Yeah, Vanessa uses land voice to make inviting pretty easy. That's a great resource, guys. If you look up land voice, they provide phone numbers that are scrubbed from the do not call. Yeah. Also, Area Pro. That's another cool tool. You do have to subscribe to it. It's pretty affordable. It gives you lots of data. Hey, Fred, will I answer a couple of questions? Could you type your email in the chat box? If you guys are in Southern California, where it's easy for you to get to Irvine, and you'd like to know more about the event Fred and I are doing in May, he'll send you the info, okay? Alcohol at open house. Ken, I'm going to say that's your call. I have personally done some things in the past where it was like a wine and cheese happy hour for the neighbors, and that was a little more low key. I just think, I don't know, that was years ago. I think liability. I think some crazy person that comes and won't leave. So I would probably lean away from that. Wouldn't you think so, Fred?
I have my thoughts on this, and I mean, I don't know what state everybody's in right now, but we're in California, and I believe California is probably the most litigious state in the nation, or one of, I would say. So you have to always think from a liability standpoint. The
Yes.
truth is, if somebody actually, and I'm not an attorney, so let's preface that, but I've heard this through attorneys. If you have alcohol at your open house and somebody comes and has a drink at your open house and they get in a car accident afterwards and they get in trouble for DUI, for example, then you could be held liable. I've heard these horror stories from attorney friends that I
Right.
have. So with that preface, I haven't gone through them, so don't come to me, talk to an attorney or your broker. But as a friend, I would tell you probably not a good
Probably
idea
not.
from what I've heard. Right.
There's
But
just not much good
yeah,
that will come from it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I think it's just safer not to do it. And the same thing applies to if you're doing any snack or anything there, just considering not messy, right? And I have seen people that would do, if they would do a coffee cart or some type of snack, they would actually set up folding tables in
Yeah.
the front driveway or in the backyard and just encourage that they can go out there to get their snack. I have seen something that was very cute. It was their geographic farm area, and they had these custom made cookies, like sugar cookies, and they were painted. They basically matched the exact house. So this cookie artist took a picture of the house, made a cookie and painted it. It was
Creative.
plain wrapped with a bow. So it was really encouraged to carry it out, right? And then they had water bottles. I saw one recently where in the front yard they had a little ice cream cart, and they said, would you like an ice cream? Maybe you'd like to enjoy it on your way out of the open house. We prefer to eat the ice cream outside, and people go through the house and come and get the ice cream and then stand and chat for a minute. So I always just think about what's the worst case that could happen and assume it might.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah. And
I'm
just be
laughing.
careful.
I'm laughing hearing you because I'll be honest, I'm the worst at that. I want to do an open house
Yes.
and we want to generate some leads. We want to sell the house. We want to build
You're not,
relationships.
no fluffy stuff for you.
But no, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I respect the one. Like I'm sure there's a couple hundred people on this call. Like I'm sure you might be one of those agents that just you put flags out, you put balloons out, you got it dialed in, and I commend you for it. Here's why: because people without even coming into your open house that live in the area are already subjectively interviewing you, saying, "Oh my gosh." That Fred Sed, that Debbie DeGroat, wow, they've been doing open houses the past 3 consecutive weeks. We got people coming in. They still got one. I mean, I would love for them to do that at my house. Like they're interviewing you by how you're showing up without you even knowing yet.
Well, and
So it makes a huge difference.
it's a
Yeah.
great point. And I think some of it depends on if that's an area that you work consistently, worth a little bit extra effort to encourage the neighbors to want to come by. That's why that coffee cart was kind of cool in their farm. But yeah, I think one of the questions here, Danielle said, I'm hosting my first open house and I'm nervous. What advice to feel more confident? Really, whatever open house you're holding, whether you're new or seasoned, my advice is prepare well, study that market,
Yeah.
know the data, know the homes sold, know the homes available, know the schools. Danielle, that's the most important thing. When you have complete knowledge of everything surrounding that open house and you can speak expertly to it,
Mhm.
they're not going to know it's your first open house, or they're not going to know that you might be brand new. But that would be my best advice. And even as a seasoned agent, we've all made the mistake of showing up and we didn't do that. And they're asking questions and we don't know the answers. We're like clueless, and then it feels super awkward, right?
Yeah. I got a question in the chat channel about some scripts, or in the Q&A is a script in the
Okay.
Brevity Knowledge Center. It might be. You guys have my email. If not, I will go ahead and do it again. If you guys want an open house script or you want the LP Mama script, you could just email me directly and I'll get you a copy of the script that Debbie and I use in these situations.
Yeah. And so then just remember, as you leave the open house, whether you're holding your own or someone else's, we always want to leave it the way we found it, obviously making sure we counsel our sellers to put all their valuables away before the open house. You talked about it being an interview. Dress professionally. Now, am I saying you have to wear a suit in the middle of summer? No, but most of you have fabulous polos with your branded, company logo. I think that and a pair of pants looks great. Just be professional. Your materials are organized. You're not sitting on the couch eating a Carl's Jr. hamburger, watching golf when they come in, right? Because it really is an interview. And then leaving the house the way you found it, and then making sure that you communicate with the seller. And if it's another agent's listing, ask them, how do you want me to do this? Do you want me to leave a note for the seller, or do you want me to call you so you can inform the seller? Because if you want to be on speed dial for other agents to ask you to hold their listings open, super professional, always early, always set up right, and make sure you follow whatever rules and recommendations that they have. And Joyce, in a high-rise condo, to get the neighbors to come by, that really would be invite, as Philip is suggesting. Invite them, probably even a weekday after, evening, because they may be running out and running around on the weekend. Okay. So Fred, you've got your info in there. And for the rest of you, if you love this today, if you realize, I have some gaps in my business, then that's what we're here for, here at Forward Coaching. If it's time to hire a coach, you can click that little link there and request a strategy call with me. And then, Fred, we always appreciate you joining us. It's always good info and lots of fun. And thank you guys. You were incredibly participatory, and we love it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Debbie. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys, have a great day.
See y'all.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.